Welcome back to Most Myself. I'm Michelle Madrid, and I'm really glad you're here with me today. In the last episode, if you've had a chance to listen to it, we talked about something many mothers feel, but few are talking about, and that's graduation grief. Graduation grief. That bittersweet reality that we can be deeply proud of our children while simultaneously grieving the ending of a chapter. And today I would very much like to stay with that conversation. Because if graduation is the visible milestone, this episode is going to focus on everything that comes after it. The stretch of weeks and months where you know change is coming. You can see it on the horizon. You can feel it approaching, but it hasn't arrived yet. And I call this season the summer before goodbye. Not goodbye forever, not goodbye to love, not goodbye to relationship, but goodbye to a particular version of life. And if you're in that season right now, perhaps you're mapping out a college move-in for your child. I want you to know something. What you are feeling in this moment makes sense. It makes sense. Because there is a unique kind of ache that comes from standing at the edge of something you know will never be quite the same again. And I think one of the hardest places to be as human beings is in the in-between. Not where we were, not yet where we are going. We're just standing in the doorway, anticipating. And that's exactly where so many mothers find themselves during this season. Your child is still here, perhaps, but not entirely here. They are already imagining their future. It's glowing. They're thinking about college. They're thinking about work. They're thinking about travel, apartments, relationships. They're thinking about their next chapter. And meanwhile, you're standing in your kitchen looking at them and thinking, how in the world did we get here? So fast. How did we get here? Wasn't it just yesterday that I was tying their shoes or packing their lunches? Wasn't it just yesterday when I was reading them bedtime stories? And suddenly, you're living in two timelines at once. You're living in the present moment and in your memories. The future is pulling your child forward, and the past is pulling at your heart. And you are trying to stay rooted in the now. And I got to tell you, that tension is exhausting. I know it well. It's exhausting. And it is beautiful. And it is heartbreaking. All at the same time. And I think there comes a moment when mothers begin counting. Not out loud, quietly, internally counting. 3 more soccer games. 1 more school play. 1 more dance recital. 2 more summers. 1 more Christmas before college. 1 more family vacation. 1 more season. 1 more year. 1 more ordinary Tuesday. And suddenly everything feels different. The moments themselves haven't changed, but your awareness has. Because now you're conscious of what they represent. I remember hearing someone say, not that long ago, the hardest thing about parenting is realizing that you're raising someone to leave. And I think that is so true. It's spot on. Not because we don't want them to leave. Of course we do. That's the goal. The goal is their independence. The goal is their confidence. The goal is their wings. But there is still grief. There is grief still in watching those wings unfold. There is still grief in knowing that something you've spent years building is entering a new season. And perhaps that's why this time feels so incredibly tender. You are standing close enough to the ending to see it, but not yet close enough to touch it. Can we talk about this? Because I know there are women listening right now who suddenly find themselves feeling emotional over things that make no logical sense, like a pair of sneakers in the hallway, a backpack, a bedroom, a photograph, an empty cereal bowl left on the counter. And you're standing there wondering, why am I crying over a backpack? And the answer is, you're not. You're not crying over a backpack. You are crying over time. You are crying because you remember kindergarten. You're crying because you remember kindergarten and graduation existing in the same heartbeat. You're crying because the years felt long when you were living them and impossibly short looking back. You're crying because you're realizing that some moments only become sacred in retrospect. We don't know they're sacred while they're happening. We only understand later. And that's what these objects, like the backpack, represent. Not things, but stories, memories, love, history. And this is where I want to offer something gentle to you. Because I think many mothers unknowingly place enormous pressure on themselves during this season. We tell ourselves, enjoy every moment, take it all in, don't miss anything, savor it, appreciate it, be present. And while that sounds really beautiful, it can become another burden. It can. Because now we're trying to hold on to something that is naturally changing. And here's something that I've learned. The tighter we grip, the more afraid we become. And the more afraid we become, the less present we actually are. Instead of enjoying dinner, for example, we're mourning the future dinners. Instead of enjoying today, we are grieving tomorrow. Instead of experiencing the moment that we're in, we're trying to preserve it. And that's impossible. Life was never meant to be preserved. Life was meant to be lived. And so the invitation isn't to freeze time. The invitation is to fully inhabit it. And this is where I want to introduce a question to you. And it is a question that may feel a little uncomfortable, but I know it matters, so stay with me. Here's the question. What if the ache isn't entirely about your child leaving? What if part of the ache is about you? Because I don't mean this in a selfish way. I don't mean it selfishly. I mean it honestly. For years, motherhood may have been one of the central organizing forces of your life. It was in my life, for sure. Motherhood shaped your routines, your identity, your priorities, your schedule, your relationships, your purpose. And now something is shifting. It's not disappearing, it's shifting. And perhaps what you're feeling is not only grief, perhaps you're also standing at the edge of your own becoming. Because when our children need us differently, something else often begins asking for our attention. We start to hear it, like our dreams, our desires, our creativity, our voice, our relationships, the parts of ourselves that patiently waited while we tended to everyone else. And honestly, that can feel exciting and terrifying at the same time. And this is where I think we often miss something really important. We tend to frame this season entirely as loss. But I wonder if it's also a return to parts of ourselves we haven't had room for, a return to curiosity, a return to possibility, a return to questions that we've been postponing. Questions like, who am I becoming now? What do I want? What brings me alive? What matters to me? What do I want this next chapter to feel like? Now, notice I didn't say, what do I want this next chapter to look like? Because many women get stuck trying to create a plan. Instead, start with a feeling. That's what I'm suggesting to you. Instead of starting with a plan, I want you to start with a feeling. Like the feeling of freedom, or adventure, or connection, or peace, creativity, purpose, joy. Because maybe this summer isn't only about preparing your child for what is next. Maybe it's also about preparing you too for what is next. And if I could offer one invitation for the moms who are listening today, it would be this. Stop trying to hold on to the chapter. Start paying attention to it. And there's a difference. Holding on comes from fear. Paying attention comes from love. Holding on says, please don't change. Paying attention says, I see this. I appreciate this. I will remember this. And there's a complete different energy between the two. One resists reality and the other honors it. And perhaps that is the practice for this summer. Not clinging, not rushing, not pretending that you're fine. It's simply paying attention to the laughter, the conversations, the ordinary moments, the finals, the milestones, the drives, the dinners, the stories, the chapter that is still happening right here, right now. And if you're in the summer before goodbye right now, I want you to know that you are not alone. You're not alone. There are mothers all over the world standing in this same doorway, and they are looking across dinner tables, watching their children become themselves, feeling pride, feeling grief, feeling gratitude, feeling fear, feeling love, sometimes all in the same hour. And maybe, just maybe, that's what this season really is. Not a season of goodbye, but a season of witnessing. Witnessing your child becoming who they were always meant to become. And witnessing yourself becoming someone new too. Witnessing yourself begin to come back home to you. And that's a beautiful homecoming. Because here's what I believe. The ache that you're feeling isn't telling you that you are losing them. The ache is reminding you how deeply you loved them. And love doesn't disappear when a chapter ends. Love changes shape, just like motherhood does, and just like we do. So, hands over heart, take a deep breath in with me and exhale. And oh, my friend, look up from the future and come back to today and ask yourself this question. What is one ordinary moment I'm experiencing right now that I may someday miss? What is one ordinary moment I'm experiencing right now that I may someday miss? And then don't rush past that moment. Stay with it. Stay there a little longer and a little longer.